Nobody ever said, "This is how we avoid debt." But Christian families in the 1970s practiced something powerful without naming it. Money was handled slowly, carefully, and in full view of the household. Waiting was normal, fixing things was expected, and owing money to anyone was treated as something to escape, not accept. Today, we're going back to Christian family life in the 1970s to revisit 14 everyday money routines they followed without instructions. The kinds of habits that quietly kept families out of debt, not because they were rich, but because life moved slower and people leaned on each other more. You'll recognize them instantly. Number 14 starts at the kitchen table with envelopes and pencil marks. Number 9 smells like gasoline and Saturday driveway repairs. And number 1 explains why so many families stayed in the same house for decades and look better because of it. This isn't about blaming the present or glorifying the past. It's about remembering how peace used to be built one ordinary choice at a time. Stay with me, because somewhere in this countdown is a rule your family lived by, and maybe never named. 14. The envelope system on the kitchen table. You're sitting at the table after supper. The dishes stacked, the radio low. Someone pours the week's cash onto the table with a quiet seriousness, like it deserves respect. You watch the bills get smoothed, counted twice, then divided with steady hands. If you're a kid, you're hoping there's a little extra for the corner store. But you also know better than to interrupt the counting. The envelopes are plain and slightly bent at the corners, each one labeled in blue ink. Some have little smudges where the pencil got erased and written again. The groceries envelope feels thicker than the others, and the gas envelope always seems to run out faster than anyone wants. A few coins roll to the side and get chased down with a fingertip, because even the small money has a place. This does something to your brain. Spending stops being invisible. You can feel the limits in your fingertips. You learn without being lectured that money has edges, and that edges can be a gift. When the envelope gets thin, the family gets creative. Breakfast for supper, homemade bread, a repair instead of a replacement. Later, the world gets smoother. Cards replace cash, automatic payments replace envelopes, and buying becomes something you can do without looking at what you have left. The stop sign moves farther down the road. Did your family use envelopes, a jar system, a cash box, or something else entirely? 13. The checkbook ledger and the pencil behind the ear. Sunday afternoon is quiet, and you can hear the scratch of a pencil on paper from the kitchen. Someone is balancing the checkbook with the patience of a person doing small math for a big purpose. Every number matters, but nobody is dramatic about it. The television might be on low in the other room, but the house understands this part needs focus. The ledger is a little book with thin lines, sometimes kept in the same drawer as the scissors and the rubber bands. There are carbon copies of checks, a bank statement folded into thirds, and a pencil that's short from being sharpened too many times. The page carries faint smudges where the eraser worked overtime, proof that mistakes happened and could be fixed. This habit makes you aware, not anxious aware, just awake. It teaches you that money isn't only what comes in, it's what slips out in small places. It also teaches honesty inside the home. A purchase isn't hidden, it gets written down right there, the same ink as the electric bill. Eventually, banks start doing the math for you. Then applications do it. Then automatic subscriptions start quietly living in your account like little invisible roommates. And the ledger stops sitting on the table where everyone can see it. Did someone in your home balance the checkbook every week, every month, or only when something felt off? 12. If you cannot pay cash, you cannot buy it. You're in a store washed in fluorescent light, pushing a cart that squeaks every few steps. You lift something from the shelf, turn it over, and study the price tag like it's asking a question. Somewhere just behind you, a parent says, "Put it back," not sharp, not annoyed, just certain. The rule was never debated in the aisle. It was already settled long before you walked in. The wallet opens, and you see what's actually there. Real bills, finite money. Sometimes there's a coin purse that jingles when it moves. Sometimes there's a folded stack of coupons, edges clipped unevenly, ink rubbing faintly onto your fingers. At the register, the cashier counts change back into your hand, and you feel the weight of it. You feel the end of it. This wasn't only about saying no. It was about learning how to wait. It taught you that later wasn't a punishment. It was part of the plan. You learned how to want something without needing it immediately, and how to walk away without feeling small. The absence of debt meant fewer sleepless nights and fewer quiet arguments after the kids went to bed. Over time, buying got smoother. Credit cards became normal, then necessary. Payments were divided into smaller payments. And the moment of decision got quieter, like someone turned down the volume on consequence. What was the thing your parents absolutely refused to buy on credit? Furniture, cars, vacations, or something you still remember arguing about? 11. Layaway tickets and Christmas hope without debt. You're standing at a department store counter while someone behind the register staples a little receipt to a card. The item you want is not coming home today. It's staying in the back with your name on it, waiting. You walk out with empty hands, but your heart still feels full because you know it's coming. The layaway ticket is small, thin, and easy to lose. It gets tucked into a wallet or a Bible, sometimes folded so many times it looks tired. The receipt ink is faint, and you can smell the store-new fabric, perfume samples, and winter coats. Each time you come back to make a payment, the cashier recognizes you, and you feel a tiny pride. You are working towards something without borrowing for it. Layaway lets families breathe. You can plan for Christmas or school clothes without signing up for interest. You can give your children something nice without letting January punish you for December. Then, shopping turns instant. Credit makes waiting optional. Later, online checkout makes waiting feel almost unnecessary. The store stops holding your item because the bank holds your balance instead. And the calendar stops slowing anyone down. Did your family use layaway for Christmas, back to school, or that one big purchase you still remember? 10. Hand-me-downs and the quiet pride of good enough. You walk into church and there's a box in the hallway labeled free, and nobody acts weird about it. Coats, shoes, dresses, a few toys. A mother chats casually while another mother folds a sweater like it's normal, and it is normal. Sometimes it's not even a box. Sometimes it's the trunk of a car after service, opened like a little store where everything costs nothing but gratitude. The clothing smells like someone else's detergent, and the buttons are sometimes mismatched. The hem might be let out or stitched up. A winter coat might have a name written inside in faded marker, crossed out and written again. A pair of shoes might come with a note. These run small, like a friend giving you insider knowledge. Hand-me-downs carry a message. You don't have to pretend. You can be provided for through community. You can receive without humiliation and give without making it a performance. And when you grow into something that used to belong to someone older, you feel connected, like you are literally being covered by the family of faith. As brands get louder and fashion turns faster, hand-me-down culture gets more complicated. Families move more, communities thin, and people begin to feel pressure to look a certain way, especially once shopping becomes a kind of identity. Did you grow up with church clothes that used to belong to someone else? And did it feel normal, funny, or secretly comforting? 9. The used car rule and Saturday driveway repairs. The car hood is propped open, and the driveway smells like gasoline, dust, and warm metal baking in the sun. Someone is lying on a flattened cardboard box, sliding out from under the car with a grease-streaked forearm, while you stand nearby holding a flashlight that feels too heavy for your wrist. You hear a socket clink, a muttered word, then a small laugh like the car is stubborn but familiar. The toolbox is dented and missing a few pieces. A rag that used to be a bath towel is draped over the bumper. A repair manual lies open on the hood, its pages curled and smudged from years of use. A coffee can holds loose bolts, sorted only by memory. The garage radio hums between stations, and before long, a neighbor wanders over, not because they were invited, but because an open hood sounds like a conversation starter in the 1970s. Buying used is never about looking good. It's about knowing what you own. You learn that things last longer when you care for them, and that repairs don't mean failure. They mean responsibility. Fixing what you have becomes normal. Pride comes not from something new, but from something paid for and still running. Later, cars grow more complicated. Commutes stretch farther. Financing grows friendlier. Warranties get sold as peace of mind. And slowly, the Saturday repair starts to feel harder than the monthly payment. Did your family always buy used? And did you have a drive it until it dies rule? 8. One income, tight budget, and shared sacrifice. You hear the paycheck envelope being opened at the kitchen table, the paper tearing carefully along the edge. Someone counts it once, then again, slower this time, before setting aside what has to be paid first. There's no argument, no speeches, just quiet understanding. A bill slides under a refrigerator magnet like a promise that won't be broken. A time card might be tucked into a lunch pail. A work shirt hangs by the door, clean but worn. The grocery list is written in plain handwriting. Milk, bread, eggs, flour. Maybe a small treat if the week allows it. Outside, there's a garden with rows that don't look impressive, but always produce something. Inside, shelves hold jars of green beans canned last summer, each one labeled in careful ink. Living on one income means everyone participates. Children learn early that not this week doesn't mean never. It means planning. It means patience. It means sometimes choosing between good and better. And often, the church quietly fills the space between need and provision. No announcement, no spotlight. A folded envelope appears. A bag of groceries sits on the porch. Help arrives without questions. As the years pass, costs rise. Housing, fuel, childcare, everything stacks up. 2 incomes become necessary for many families just to stay afloat. Time gets thinner. The old rhythm where one person kept the home steady while the other earned becomes harder to hold. Was your household a 1-income home, a 2-income home, or a we did whatever we had to kind of place? 7. Oh, no one taught softly from the pulpit. You're sitting in a wooden pew and the pastor is talking about faithful living in a way that reaches all the way into the Monday bills. Not scolding, not grandstanding, just practical wisdom. Like an uncle who has made mistakes and doesn't want you to repeat them. You notice heads nodding, not excited, just relieved that someone is naming what everyone worries about in silence. A Bible rests open on someone's lap, a verse underlined in the margin with a thin pen. A church bulletin has notes scribbled beside the sermon title, and the paper feels slightly warm from being held. After service, an older couple might pull a young couple aside and say, "Start small, pay what you owe, don't rush." The message isn't money is everything. It's the opposite. It's a reminder not to get trapped, not to sign away peace, not to let a lender become a silent voice in your home. It gives families a moral language for restraint. Contentment sounds like obedience, not deprivation. Church conversations about money change. Some congregations stop bringing it up because it feels too personal. Others shift toward different themes. And as credit becomes normal everywhere, Avoiding debt starts to sound like a strange hobby instead of a shared expectation. Did your church ever speak directly about debt, saving, or contentment? Or was it something you only heard in quiet hallway conversations? 6. Borrowing from people, not banks. Your dad needs a truck for a day, and he doesn't call a rental place. He calls a man from church. The conversation is short, friendly, and full of trust. Bring it back with a full tank, the man says, like that's all the contract you need. You can hear them smiling through the phone. There's a handwritten note sometimes, and I owe you on scrap paper. There's a casserole traded for help. There's a pie dropped off with a wink. There's a bag of garden tomatoes left on a porch as a thank you. The currency is not only cash, it's relationship, and everyone knows the price of breaking trust is higher than interest. This kind of borrowing keeps people out of bank debt and keeps communities stitched together. You can't disappear behind a statement. You have to be the kind of person who follows through, who returns what you borrowed, who shows up when it's your turn. Need isn't shameful, it's temporary and shared. Later, liability worries grow. People move farther from their families and churches. Privacy tightens. And the idea of involving others in your financial life starts to feel uncomfortable, like admitting weakness. Did your family ever borrow money, tools, or a vehicle from someone at church, and how was it repaid? 5. Church work days and building without loans. You pull into the church parking lot and people are already there with paint cans and ladders. Someone's kids are running around with a broom that's bigger than they are. A man in a plaid shirt hands you a hammer like you're supposed to know what to do with it. Even if you don't, you take it, because that's how you learn. There's donated lumber stacked near the fellowship hall, a coffee urn that smells like burnt comfort, and a box of nails that rattles when you pick it up. Someone is patching drywall. Someone is fixing a window that's been stuck for years. And somebody, always, is making jokes like laughter is part of the tool belt. When churches build and repair together, it saves money, yes, but it also creates ownership. The building isn't just the church. It's something your hands help maintain, and families learn that needs can be met through sweat, not debt. Even kids learn it. If you want the youth room painted, you show up with a brush. Over the years, insurance rules tighten and specialized labor becomes more necessary. People get busier, volunteer time shrinks, and projects that once take a weekend begin to require contractors and permits. Did your church ever have work days where everyone painted, cleaned, or built something together? 4. Potlucks, pantry shelves, and the way nobody went hungry. After service, the fellowship hall is already humming. Folding tables scrape lightly across the floor. Aluminum pans are being unwrapped, foil crackling like anticipation. The line forms without anyone directing it, and the smells do most of the talking. Baked chicken, green beans cooked soft, rolls brushed with butter, and that one dessert people pretend not to watch for even though everyone knows when it appears. Kids weave between chairs with small cups of punch, sticky fingers held just high enough to avoid disaster. Someone murmurs, careful, not sharply, just enough to guide. Laughter rises and settles, plates clink. The room feels full in a way that has nothing to do with square footage. A casserole dish sits at the end of the table, still warm under its foil blanket. Nearby, maybe down a hallway or tucked into a closet, there's a pantry shelf canned vegetables, boxed pasta, soup with labels facing forward. People add to it quietly, no announcements, no clipboard. Sometimes food appears in a brown paper bag set in the back room. Sometimes it's cash folded inside a church bulletin and passed hand to hand like a kindness that doesn't need witnesses. This wasn't charity in the way people think of it now. It was shared life. Everyone ate the same food, at the same tables, on the same paper plates. If you were struggling, you didn't sit out. You didn't explain. You didn't get singled out. You were just hungry, and so was everyone else, and there was plenty. Over time, Sundays tightened. Sports schedules, work shifts, long drives home. Food policies got stricter. Kitchens got regulated. Potlucks didn't disappear everywhere, but they stopped being the quiet safety net where needs were met without being named. What was the signature dish at your church? Fried chicken, potato salad, a famous casserole, or a dessert that vanished before you ever reached it? 3. Make-do culture and the button jar under the sink. You're sitting nearby while someone sews a button back onto a shirt. The television murmurs in the background. The needle flashes. The thread pulls tight with a small snap. And the button settles back into place like it never left. Nobody treats this as a special skill. It's just upkeep. The same tone someone would use to say, "Hand it here," or "Move your foot." There's a cookie tin that doesn't hold cookies anymore. Inside are spools of thread, needles stuck into scraps of fabric, safety pins, and a small pair of scissors that only get used for this. Nearby, a jar of buttons holds every color imaginable. Some shiny, some cracked, some mismatched, but saved anyway. Under the sink, there's a drawer with tape, glue, spare cords, and things no one throws away, just in case. A pair of jeans might have a patch that feels rough against your knee. A lamp might have a new cord threaded through its base. A toaster might be opened up on the counter with a screwdriver resting beside it. Because replacing it feels unnecessary when it probably just needs adjusting. Making do builds something quiet inside a family. It teaches that broken doesn't mean finished, that you don't panic when something wears out, you fix it or you try. It keeps small inconveniences from turning into reasons to spend money you don't have, and it gives you a steady confidence. We can handle this. We don't rush, we mend. Later, products get cheaper and easier to replace. Repair shops fade, time feels scarcer. The skills that once passed naturally from hand to hand start slipping away, replaced by faster solutions and delivery notifications. Did your home sew, patch, and fix things? Or was it more of a, we'll just get a new one house? 2. Christmas simpler, gatherings bigger. The living room feels warmer than usual, crowded with coats draped over chairs and shoes lined up near the door. The tree lights blink slowly, reflecting off ornaments that look like they've been there forever. The air smells like oranges, cinnamon, pine, and something baking that will be ready later. Someone hands you a gift that's heavier than it looks. The paper might be reused next year, so the tape is peeled carefully, slow enough to save it. Inside are socks, or a coat, or a tool set, something useful. Maybe there's one special gift you've been thinking about all month, and the waiting made it feel larger somehow. Bows get saved in a shoebox, stockings hold an orange at the bottom, a few hard candies that rattle, maybe a small surprise tucked in sideways. In the background, someone practices a church pageant song, a little off-key, and nobody asks them to stop. Later, you'll sit shoulder to shoulder in a candlelight service, singing words everyone knows by heart. When Christmas stays simpler, families don't need debt to create wonder. The joy comes from being together, eating together, singing together, sitting in rooms filled with familiar voices. Anticipation becomes part of the gift, and children learn that excitement doesn't have to arrive in bulk to be real. Then advertisements grow louder. Shopping becomes constant. Credit smooths the edges, and the season starts to feel like something you could fail if you don't spend enough. What was the most practical Christmas gift you remember receiving, and did it still feel special? 1. Staying put, paying it off, and refusing the constant upgrade. You're driving past the same house you grew up in, and it looks smaller than you remember, but also sturdier. The yard has the same tree. The porch steps are worn in the middle where feet have climbed them for years. You can almost hear the screen door again. And for a second, you remember how safe it feels to know exactly where home is. Inside a drawer, there might be a mortgage booklet with stamped payments, or a little folder of receipts kept in careful order. Some churches even have a moment for it. A mortgage burning, a simple celebration where the last payment means the building or the family can breathe. At home, the furniture isn't trendy, but it's solid. The kitchen table has scratches that tell stories. The walls might have fresh paint because someone learns to do it themselves instead of hiring it out. Staying put reduces pressure. It lets families build stability. It makes generosity easier because the budget isn't always stretched by the next upgrade. It teaches children that contentment can look like the same neighborhood, the same church, the same people who watch you grow. And that security can be built slowly, one payment at a time. Then housing markets change, jobs require more moving, and expectations grow. Upgrading becomes normal, bigger becomes ordinary. And staying in one home for decades starts to feel like a rare kind of patience. Did your parents stay in the same house for years? Or did moving feel like part of life? And now you're back where we started at that kitchen table. Envelopes lined up in a careful row, pencil smudges on paper, the coffee burbling softly in the corner, steady and familiar. Nothing fancy, nothing loud, just a house doing its best to stay balanced. Maybe those habits didn't disappear because they were unimportant. Maybe they faded because the world sped up. Money moved faster, buying got easier, and life stopped slowing down long enough to notice limits. But what those traditions gave people still mattered. Peace at night, fewer surprises in the mailbox, and room to be generous without fear. It wasn't about being better than anyone else. It was about living close enough to your means and close enough to your people. That help never felt like shame, and waiting never felt like failure. So tell me this, what was the strongest money rule in your home envelopes? Cash only, layaway, never buying new, or something else you still remember? And if any of this took you back, subscribe. There's more of that memory trail ahead, and the next one might be closer than you think.